you've okay. Okay. Good. Mary Lou, thanks for setting up this recording here. My name is Dave Allard, and I am the chair of the History Committee, Health Physics Society History Committee. I'm in Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania here, and I have the great honor of interviewing and chatting with my dear friend, Ruth McBurney, who I've known for many, many years through the Health Physics Society and the Conference for Radiation Control Program Directors. She's had an amazing career. I'm not going to steal any of her thunder. I've just refreshed myself with her resume, and we're going to just kind of walk through Ruth's career here and just kind of get to know Ruth and record this for posterity. So Ruth, thanks so much for joining us here today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Yeah.
So Ruth, my first let's see, and you're at your home office in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, for the last about 4 years, we moved back from Texas. Yeah.
Nice spot down there. So maybe the first you could just where you were born, where you grew up, family, any hobbies, and then we'll get into your education a little bit here, where you're
Okay.
born.
Yeah, I was born here in Little Rock, and my father was helping build War Memorial Stadium at the time.
Oh, wow.
And then we moved from there just shortly after to rural areas of Arkansas, little bitty towns,
I've been out there.
communities.
It's a nice, beautiful area. Yeah.
One in Bigelow, which is near Toadsuck, Arkansas. So that's where I got the recognized as being from Toadsuck. But actually, it was the little town was Bigelow, but it was near Toadsuck.
Right.
And then grew up mostly through elementary and high school in the little town of Carlisle, Arkansas. And I was the youngest of 4 children, and we were all spread out in age. But then went to Henderson State University for my bachelor's degree, which is a small state college here in Arkansas, and then went to the University of Arkansas for medical sciences for my master's in radiation sciences.
So what was your undergraduate degree? Yeah. What was your undergraduate degree?
Biology, chemistry, biology with minors in chemistry and physics. So just big basic science background.
And your master's was in radiological.
Right, in radiation sciences, which was what the health physics program was called there at the Med Center.
Who was down there? Who were your professors at the time?
Charlie Breckenridge was head of the program. He was a Purdue graduate, and Claude Epperson was also from Purdue. They set up the program. Dan Matthews was my radiation chemistry professor and was my major professor there for my thesis work. And so.
Yeah. So how did you choose health physics coming from your bachelor's to grad school? Were you working in between or?
No, actually, when I was a senior in college, and I knew I didn't want to go into teaching, I was getting a Bachelor of Science degree, and I realized that there wasn't much I could do with that major without some sort of further graduate school. Yeah. So I started looking around, and one of my chemistry professors had posted on the bulletin board about the program at the Med Center, and he encouraged me to apply. He said, you might be interested in this. This is, a growing field of health physics, and I think, you would enjoy it. So I looked into it, and I did apply, and basically by that time I'd run out of money. So the fact that somebody would pay me to go to graduate school was very,
Nice.
very appealing.
I think we're sort of hopefully getting back to that too. I think there's some more grant money coming out of the federal government, hopefully into some
Right, I hope so.
small
Yeah,
programs, and that's a whole nother conversation of the
right.
need for more people coming in behind us, the whole warp study. So your career path. So you tell me a little bit about graduate school and what was your first job and your
So, yeah, uh, I went through the coursework and my research there and got married at the end of that summer. So they allowed me to write my thesis from afar. And we moved to Columbia, Missouri, where I tried to get a job with the radiation safety office there. So I thought, well,
right?
that's the first place I'll apply.
Yeah.
And at that time, the RSO said, "No, we don't hire women for that." So I thought, "Oh, well, that's disappointing." So I got a job in research as a research tech because they were looking for someone with radiation background.
Right.
They knew radioisotopes, and they were using radioimmunoassay to measure reproductive hormones in large animals.
Wow.
And so I worked in the large animal reproduction lab at the
Nice.
University of Missouri Vet School for 2 years, and got my name on a
Papers.
published paper as a
Nice.
result.
Yep. Yep.
Then when we
Excellent.
came back to Arkansas, uh, they were just introducing radioimmunoassay in the hospitals
Yep.
in the city, and they were building a new hospital, and I actually got to set up a radioimmunoassay lab and manage it for several years before
Yeah.
moving on to other things.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a big thing. I remember early in my career in the mid 70s when I started my career as a health physics technician at Albany Medical Center.
mhm.
Radioimmunoassays were, Rosalind Yao got a Nobel Prize for this
Oh, yeah,
fabulous technique for getting, to very small, quantities of material and
that's
biological
right.
systems. Yeah. And I was just want to go back to your husband for a second. You got married to Mac McBurney.
Yeah.
What wonderful gentleman, pianist,
So,
amazing pianist.
yeah, he was one of my professors at Henderson. So that's how we met.
That's how you met. Okay. We won't
Yeah.
go further there. Mac's a great guy. So,
Yeah.
so just with your career, so you're back in Arkansas now, and
Hmm.
Mac's teaching. You're setting up the lab, and
Yeah. So then I decided, well, uh, both of us were wanting to try to get move on with some additional graduate school.
right,
And so I went out to Colorado State University for one semester. And since Mac was not able to join me there, I came back to Arkansas then after that.
right,
Uh, and that's when I applied to work in the regulatory program, in the
right.
radiation control program in Arkansas. And that was in the late 70s.
Yep,
And by then, people were required to not discriminate
right.
because of
Yep. Yeah, I have a good friend of mine.
gender.
Yeah, I have a good friend, very good friend, childhood friend he lives here coincidentally in Pennsylvania. His mom, he's like my second mother, and she's a brilliant lady. She wanted to be an MD, and they weren't taking, in the
Yeah,
30s, she weren't taking women to the medical programs.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just great. Yeah, yeah. We've come a long way. We still have a lot
that's right.
way to go,
That's
but we've
right.
come a long way. Yeah, good. So who was the director of the rat control program in
Uh,
Arkansas?
so Frank Wilson, who was one of the founding fathers of the Conference of Radiation Control Program Directors, was the bureau chief, and then the radiation control program was headed by Dave Snellings, who was also a graduate of the program there in Little Rock,
Right.
at the Med Center.
Good.
So
So how long were you with the program in Arkansas?
until 1981, and that's when Texas made me an offer I couldn't refuse to come down there and work with them.
Good.
And but I enjoyed my time in Arkansas, and we accomplished quite a few things, including, responding to a broken arrow, the missile silo.
That's one of my questions. Memorable, and I know the history of this. So tell me about that event and you and
So
others.
this was in what, 1980, I think.
Early 80s.
And
this was the broken arrow event. So this is
it was there was some leakage of the fuel from the missile
underground
in the silo. Someone dropped a wrench. It sparked, and the
launched.
It launched.
It launched.
But it didn't. It didn't.
Clearly,
become a bomb or anything. It just launched, and the warhead blew clear and landed
some distance
away, but it blew off the big thick metal doors, and we were involved in the response. They called us at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and we were at the state EOC by 5:30 or so, with our gear. And Bernie Bevel, who I worked with there, who's still there.
Yeah, I know Bernie's still with the program. He's a wonderful
still there.
guy.
Our first assignment was to go survey a couple of the guys that were involved in the accident. They were already in the hospital. One was in surgery at the time, so we just surveyed their clothing. There was no contamination. So then we left there and started surveying the area as far as we could get without having guns pointed at us at the
now a national security zone, right?
Right. Yeah, right. And we waited for the folks to arrive from the DOE
DOE RAP
team.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And then Brooks came out also. Brooks Air Force Base.
And then the Air Force sent up folks from San Antonio, and that's where I got to meet Ed Meyer, who was on that team.
Ed was my good friend and colleague and boss at the time at Arthur D. Little many years ago. Yeah, that's a great guy.
Right.
Yeah. So this and there's a film out there on this event.
Command and Control.
A book and a book, and then they did a documentary. Very well
the state's not mentioned much in that book.
Yeah. Well, yeah, when I was watching it, I was looking for you and Bernie and Ed.
Yeah.
But it's a good film. So anybody watches this, it's a good, and it's a good story for the weapons program too, the safety of nuclear weapons, and they've had.
In fact, DOE asked us to come and give a presentation about it recently. So
good. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Because the safety
of the learning experience.
The safety of the high explosives has come a long way. The event in Spain where they actually had one drop out of a plane and detonate, and same here. I think it was South Carolina or North Carolina. One again fell out of a bomber and detonated, but didn't spread any contamination, which says a lot for the safety of these weapons. So good. good. Command and control. That's
That's
one
right.
to say. So, any particular teachers, mentors, that made a big impact on your career that you can
Well,
highlight?
along the way, several people, of course, Dr. Matthews, Dan Matthews was my major professor there in in Arkansas, at the University of Arkansas, and he was very encouraging and helpful along the way. Also, there's been several, of course, a lot of colleagues that I've worked with through the years that really, that impressed me, and a lot of the other presidents of HPS
Yep.
too. And of course, Brian Dodd was able to invite me over to IAEA to work on the categorization of radiation sources. I
Yes.
not knowing at the time how much that
Yeah,
document would be used
that's huge.
in setting up the source security requirements. But the background document on setting up what's a dangerous source and having the different levels of danger
Yep. This is a
in order to set those.
post 9/11, review
Right.
by the IAEA of what how to categorize a source as far as actual human danger and such. And now it's used by the NRC in the States
That's
for
right.
categorizing sources for security and such, not just the safety of radiation safety, but the security of these sources. Yeah.
And then my supervisors there in Texas, I mean, Dave Lacker was the head of the program, and Ed Bailey was my immediate supervisor at the
Right.
time. This was the first time a program had actually set up a separate group just to work on regulations.
Right.
And I was asked to do that, to head the standards development group. And
And that's huge. That's
both,
yeah,
yeah,
ready regs. I know, my last 24, almost 24 years with the state, and had helped at DOE with Part 85. Yeah, it's not an easy task.
that's right.
All the lawyers and and
Um,
involved interested parties, regulated community. Yeah.
and then Ed was, really encouraged me to go ahead and get my CHP, and gave us time to work on that. We set up a study group, and
Nice.
I mean, that was just that moved things along nicely.
Yeah, yeah, very nice. And who else? Richard, you
I
worked with
worked with Richard
Richard,
Ratliff.
right?
He had,
Excellent.
early on, he was the head of compliance, and then after Dave Lacker retired, Richard became my supervisor,
Right.
and he was really good too.
Good. Yeah, Richard's a great guy. Challenges, and you mentioned this technical focus areas. You mentioned the source security document.
Mm-hmm.
Any other technical focus areas through your career that you're really, have a warm spot in your heart, and any
So
big challenges?
yeah, most of my work was, in the regulatory programs, and so um, the some of the big challenges I had in, of course, in rule development, and still
Right.
remains, are working on regulations for technologically enhanced naturally occurring radioactive material, which was a big deal in
This
Texas
is
in
where I
the
start twitching.
oil and gas
Yep.
industry. And
Yep.
because we work
It's
together on
starting.
this
Yeah.
internationally, that it's still,
Yeah.
trying to come up with a practical way to regulate that was really a challenge. The other area that was challenging was implementing the source security requirements.
Okay.
We have some, licensees in Texas that had really high levels of radioactive material that required the additional security, and then working on those regulations was also quite a challenge. We were able to implement some of the first regulations of any state or NRC for that matter,
Right.
for well logging.
Security. Yep.
For example, we did the first well logging rules. We were, when I first went there, we had to implement new requirements for uranium since the change in the federal law on that.
That was in situ mining, was it?
Yeah. Mostly in situ uranium mining. We had some cleanup of some old conventional mining, and but
So
most of the ongoing mining was in situ.
Right. So did you have UMTRA sites down there?
Yes, we had one on UMTRA site.
Okay.
And I was in on the groundbreaking of that.
Yeah. I think we have the only one east of the Mississippi here.
That's right. That's right.
Which it started for radium, not uranium.
Yeah. And then we implemented the first industrial radiography certification program.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
For radiographers.
There.
And
that's still a model, right? I mean,
for all we still use the Texas exam. We set up the item bank. We had psychometric approvals, and I mean, we had to bring in people that don't normally work in radiation to actually help with that. So that was another big challenge.
I remember early in my career in the 80s, we started to get a little bit into T-norm when I was at Nuclear Metals. We had some zircons cast. We used it for casting uranium, and so here comes the the zircon ceramic castings that are radioactive themselves, and then we started looking at the zircons, and then some of it actually was exceeding source material the criteria for part 40 and NRC, and what didn't matter because we had 6 million pounds of depleted uranium on site, but it's kind of interesting that it really wasn't regulated. And then of course fast forward with all the Pennsylvania oil and gas, and the day I stepped foot in Pennsylvania was initiation into all the norm and T-norm, but Texas was the lead on that for sure from the 90s with the CRCPD also. As far as how about your biggest achievements, what do you think over the years? What are you most proud of? And
well, of course, becoming a CHP was one big achievement in the career, and then having the opportunity to work on several, being asked to work on several working groups at IAEA, especially the source categorization one, along with Joe Klinger from Illinois at the time.
Well, most recently the norm.
And most recently the norm issues, and being involved with several international norm symposia. We
you hosted it. You hosted it in
Denver. And in
2019,
in 2019.
Yeah, just before the pandemic.
You're right. And then 3 years later, being involved in the one in Utrecht, Netherlands,
outside of Amsterdam.
Right, and Bertjan Orkjær is already asking me to see about becoming involved on some of the committees of the next one.
Yeah, in Africa. Yeah.
It's like Norm just keeps sticking to me.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Ruth and I have been tag teaming Norm and T-norm for years. Yeah,
that's right.
Fun stuff. Any and which also, before we get off T Norm, and I don't want to dwell too much on it, but the NCRP too, I want to highlight your
Oh, right. Yeah.
with the commentary that you were involved with, and
Hmm.
T Norm commentary 29
That's
was
right.
yeah, yeah, and
Well, that
then
was another
yeah,
big honor was being selected to be on the council of NCRP and
that's
then
where I was going
serving
with
on their
this.
board for a while.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, and you're still on council.
I'm still on council,
Yep.
right? And,
Well, see you
involved
next.
in,
See you next month.
that's right, in the environmental pack.
Yep.
And then I'm also, we CRCPD and NCRP and CDC have a joint working group that's looking at the doses medical from medical
Right.
procedures in order to inform the next uh,
Survey.
publication
Yep.
of NCRP on doses to people in the United States.
Right. Yeah. That last one was 160. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, that one. Yeah. So in addition to CRCPD, then I want to get back to CRCPD quick. You've been involved with the American Academy of Health Physics and
That's right. Yeah. I was American Board of Health Physics on the American Board of Health Physics for several years and served as their chair one year. And then, of course, I was heavily involved in CRCPD
right.
back from when
Day
I
one.
was in Arkansas. Frank
Yep.
Wilson said, well, you've got to get involved. And started out on a medical practice committee and then many other committees and became their treasurer in the early 90s and then
Yep.
became the chairperson for in 1996.
Yep.
Mhm.
So then let's stay with CRCPD for a couple minutes with your involvement with CRCPD. When you retired from Texas, you became the
The executive director, and I've been in that position for the last 17 years now.
how time flies.
Yeah, yeah.
And let me for the record, you've been outstanding.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank
Having
you. It's
having
been
worked with Ruth for many years on CRCPD on the board and all the and so let's talk about your CRCPD work. So as executive director, you got meetings, you got all these federal agencies, all these grants, and
right.
so
Yeah, it's actually, the amount of work has just expanded
balloon. Yeah.
since I came. We started out with just maybe two or three grants or
Yep.
2 grants and a contract. And now we've got multiple grants, the federal agencies we're working with. We have cooperative agreements with several federal agencies that are involved in radiation protection work. And
So just
so,
so everybody knows, this is the Conference of Radiation Control Program Directors, and
mhm,
these are all the folks that are in the state regulatory
right,
system. And one of my predecessors, I was as past director of the Pennsylvania program here, helped
Tom Druski. Yeah, that's wonderful.
found the program back in 1968. But it's a huge, it's a very large organization. I'm not sure what the total membership is with the directors and the associates, all the staff under the directors
It's
are
about 1,000 total
1,000.
membership, but people take on various roles and we make it seem a lot bigger. We put on one major conference a year. It's called the National Conference on Radiation Control.
Right.
And we're busy planning this year's meeting
Right.
in
May. Yep.
May in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yep.
So
And this
Yeah.
is, I was going to say too, this organization is health physics is a very diverse field, and this
Hmm.
is where the sort of radiological physicists are interface. They're the implementers of the regulations. The NRC has authority over all the radioactive materials, but that's usually it goes down to the states as agreement states.
Right.
But in addition to licensing and inspection of radioactive material, CRCPD, the areas that you cover are enormous with all the federal
Right.
agencies.
Yes. Yeah, we since all the states are involved in some part of regulating X-ray machines, and
Right,
um, we have quite a few committees dealing with various aspects of the use of X-rays in both diagnostic and therapeutic um, uses, and we do the suggested state regulations for those, as well as provide guidance on for some of the areas, new technologies as they come out, and so forth.
yep.
We've set up a monthly call with all the states to discuss, issues that come up in X-ray, and
Yeah, and I'd note that the FDA under the Electronic Products Act of '68, I think it was,
mhm,
they regulate the manufacture of this X-ray equipment, but
mhm,
no federal agency other than the FDA and mammography, which again, that's a lot of that's delegated down to the states for
right,
inspections. Most of, if not all, the inspections are done by state. Uh,
yeah. So
right,
it's left up to the states to actually regulate the use
right.
of X-rays.
Protecting the
Um,
workers and patients, and
mhm,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
And then we're involved in non-ionizing as well, lasers and tanning,
right,
those sorts of things. And also environmental issues such as in indoor radon
right.
is
Huge,
a big part
huge.
of our program. We have, uh,
There's another conference also you help
mhm,
work.
yeah, so now we are um, uh, working with ARST,
The industry,
the radon scientists and technologists
right?
organization, to put a state track in their meeting, um, and provide speakers for that.
And that's an annual event. I've
Mhm.
a couple of those, and they're good meetings. Yep. And then emergency response with
Yes, that's taken over our lives. So I know that uh, in looking at how things have changed, certainly 9/11 really impacted how we approach emergency response. Before that, it was just mainly dealing with nuclear power plants and responding to transportation accidents, those sorts of things. But after 9/11, we really got into homeland security issues. Um, and I was mentioning the growth in federal grants.
yep,
Now we have a cooperative agreement with the consequence management group of um, the
big one.
National Nuclear Security Administration,
Oh, okay.
um, and
Yeah, I know the Ross.
contracts with FEMA.
Yep,
Hmm?
the Ross program came out
Yes,
of CRCPD. This is the help me with Ross.
radio, radiological operations support specialists, which are
Yep,
volunteers. They don't have to be within a radiation control program, but many of them are. This started about 10 years ago. In fact, we're looking to do some sort of celebration of this program at our upcoming annual meeting.
yep.
Um, uh,
I know I
but
went to the
yeah,
first
it's
eight
been
hour.
going on about 10 years now.
I think I was in the pilot, the 8 hour pilot training out there in Portland, Oregon. Yeah, that was good, good effort by Bill Irwin and others. Yeah.
Mhm.
So let's so CRCBD, huge amount of work, different areas with the state radiation control programs, and you also interface with all the federal agencies.
Right.
And I know, having spent some quality time with you in Washington, D.C., with all the
Yeah, we
agency
visit with
meetings. Yeah.
Yeah, we visit with them once a year, and more and more just virtually, but
Yep.
as we can, to actually visit with them at their offices and um,
And
just talk
that's
about the issues of mutual concern and how we as an organization can help
support.
move things along
And
and
that's
make improvements.
NRC, EPA, FDA, DOE,
FDA. um,
MOUSC.
That's
Yeah,
right.
all
There's
FEMA.
yeah, the Department of Energy. We have a large um, cooperative agreement with the Office of Source Security.
Right.
Um,
Recovery. This is the source.
yes, it's the Source Collection and Threat Reduction Program, which is assisting licensees that have unwanted sources to get rid of them at a reduced rate. Right now, we're offering 40%.
Yeah. Cost of the
Yeah.
Thank you, by the way, on behalf of Pennsylvania. Yeah.
And then for the larger sources that are, more of a hazard, we're offering even a greater percentage of the cost because we know they're expensive to dispose of. And
Yeah, and they show up in some of the orphan sources that show up at
oh yeah,
metal
I
recyclers.
remember your
So,
big radium source.
gram of radium. I wish I could go back in time and give Madam Curie a second gram
Right.
from Pennsylvania.
And for the orphan sources, we have a different program with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission
Right.
that will help the states dispose of the sources they find that are.
So let's move. So, and again, Ruth, I don't know how the country can thank you for all your work with the CRCBD, keeping that organization going with all these years.
Oh yeah.
But our first
pleasure
for meetings together with the Health Physics Society was on the board back in the late 90s.
Right.
But let's talk about your involvement. I'm sure you've been involved with the health physics chapters all along in Arkansas and Texas. And then
I started out as a member back in the late 70s, and then was involved in the Deep South chapter at the time, which included Arkansas and Louisiana and Mississippi. But then we moved to Texas with the South Texas chapter.
It's a big one.
Heavily involved with them, and also
were you an officer with any of the
yes, I served as secretary and then president of that chapter. And then I got involved on committees of the national organization back in the mid 80s. And the first committee I was on was program committee, and that was quite interesting. And then I got involved in the government relations since I was kind of close to the stuff that I was working on.
So the program committee, was there a meeting in Texas that you were involved with, or just
no,
the program committee? For the
it so happened that the 3 years I was on the program committee, and they always met at the venue where the annual meeting was going to be in the summer, but they met in the winter, and they were all very cold places in the wintertime. It was like Salt Lake City, and it was snowing and bad, and Chicago, and it was windy and cold. And, let's see.
So was that the 85 meeting in Chicago? Yeah.
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 So,
been there.
Yeah, everywhere we were was very cold. I remember when we would go visit them.
So I think I worked on the program for the it was a winter meeting up in Albany on the beer.
Yes, I
beer
remember
advi-
that. It was a mid-year. I thought,
and
why would you
I
have a
was
mid-year?
and I was living in Boston, and I grew up in upstate New York where we had two seasons, with winter and the 4th of July.
Yeah,
It's just I think we still had a good meeting. It snowed like crazy, but yeah. So then you
but
got on you got on the board. I was on the board with you
yeah.
for the
So I
exercise.
served a total of, I guess, 9 years. I was member at large on the board, and then I was the secretary,
Yep,
and then I was elected to the
early
chair
2000.
rotation, and
Yep,
the chair elect and chair president,
president-elect, and yep,
president elect, and then
and
past chair.
yep,
And so I served as president in 2006.
right.
In 2005, that's when the Energy Policy Act was
Oh,
amended
right.
to delve into some of these security issues and also change
Accelerator.
to add accelerator produced and natural, I guess, radium
Great.
primarily
Yep,
sources
yep.
To the Atomic Energy Act. And so I guess it was during that time that we were doing the visits to the Hill,
Yep.
and we spoke with um, the staffers to Senator Clinton's
Right. Right. Yep.
office, who she was one of the co
Authors of the.
sponsors
Yep.
of that bill. And we actually were able to get some language put in that they would actually work with, that NRC would work with the states on implementing changes and regulations for
And I don't think many people know this,
accelerator
but
produced material, which the states had already been
yeah,
regulating for many
yeah,
years.
yeah,
So
yeah. That was a big
I was
motivator for us to
pleased with
become it.
that.
Yeah, that was a big motivator for Pennsylvania to become an agreement state, because we would have lost like 400 licensees. And,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So back to the radium. So I believe this is correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, but discrete radium, I think it was Senator Clinton, Hillary Clinton, that got, so technically discrete radium, because there's only one disposal site out in Richland, Washington,
Mhm.
technically is not low-level radioactive waste if you find a discrete radium source. Is that
Right.
correct? You can ship out of state. They can't exclude from.
Right. They couldn't exclude.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is kind of odd. I mean, this whole
From the
myriad of
compact, the whole situation with the compacts.
yeah, in the regulatory framework for all the radioactive waste in this country, it's crazy. But
Yeah.
so
Yeah. I mean, we were, during that interim before Waste Control Specialist opened,
yeah,
our scatter program was in a bind on where these sources could be shipped, because it could only we could only uh, work with the state,
yep,
people that were wanting to dispose of it if they had a place to send it.
yeah,
So
and
and
that's a.
dispose of it.
And then I remember, was it 08 or so, when Barnwell shut down to out of
Right.
state. It's only Barnwell and New Jersey and I think
Mhm.
Connecticut are the compact. We're this, it's like this Texas, the surf and turf, compact with so Maine pulled out. Now it's just Texas and Vermont, I think.
Yeah.
Just crazy. So I've got we got maybe 15 minutes or so. So what would you, I think we maybe talked a little bit about this, your greatest achievements. I gotta say, you managing the
I think,
CRCPD.
yeah, this has been, it's sort of a culmination of a
Yep.
lot of things in my career to actually step back and oversee a
Large organization.
wonderful organization that's doing a lot of great things with volunteers and
And your
so
skill set, I mean, all those years of experience.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that not only administrative but also digging into some of the technical issues and having that understanding but not being down in the weeds with it.
Yep.
But
And
yes.
I would add, Ruth, is you got your, as far as awards and such, many awards and
Yeah.
top award in the CRCPD.
Yes. So the Gerald Parker Award from CRCPD, and then a fellow Health Physics Society, and just recently distinguished member of the Academy. I was also in 2008 named distinguished alumni of Henderson State,
Nice.
where I got my bachelor's degree.
Nice.
So yeah,
all well deserved. All well
thank
deserved.
you.
So,
Thank you.
have over the years, how do you see, how's the health physics profession evolved since you entered the profession? And it, all I was involved with the warp study with the NCRP. I mean, what, and looking into the evolution, where we are, where we're headed, your thoughts on that?
I think some of it's become less of a hands-on type
Right.
service. Used to be, dealing with waste and all that kind of stuff.
Dosimetry.
When I first entered it, to more of a knowledge base and coordinated problem solving type
Right.
career. But I think it depends on what part of health physics you go into. I mean, there's still those that are pretty much hands-on, but
cleanups and such, reactor. Yep.
Yeah.
So looking into your crystal ball and we what do you think we need to do better in the health physics?
I think attracting people to the profession. We've got a lot of retirements going on, and there's just we need people to come up. I'm seeing a few really interested young people in the society now, which is really good. But strong leaders in the universities that will attract students and get them involved in various aspects of health physics.
Yep. Yeah, it's a big worry of mine. I've been advising the Bloomsburg program here for many years, and keeping these little boutique health physics radiation protection programs going is just real important. As you know, in the States, we typically we get a few of those folks in with the formal training, the certifications, like yourself and me. But most of it's you're growing your own. You're bringing people in.
That's right.
Science degrees.
Committees working on that.
Yeah, for training, you get them all
and
trained
training.
up by NRC and EPA and FEMA.
That's right.
Yeah. So, any advice as these new young, hopefully more diverse and women getting into the field? I would hope that's going to continue. I'm seeing a lot of. I'm excited to see a lot of that. But how
I'm seeing a lot more women going into the field. I think one of your other questions had been about some of the health physicists that I've mentored.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
And that draws into this. In 1980, I hired a young lady that just a few years older than me to work in the Arkansas program. There's Greta Dicus. And she went on to become head of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission for a while. I mean, she was on the main commission for several years, and she was actually chair for a time. And
So
then she
you
served on
hired,
the ICRP main commission.
yep, you hired Greta in. I didn't realize that. So you
I
hired,
hired Greta Dacus in
then
Arkansas.
you moved off to Texas,
And then I moved off to Texas. She
and
moved into my position, and then she
then
moved.
she became
Once Frank Wilson retired, she moved into his
she
position.
was
So,
the director, and then President Clinton appointed her to the commission
right.
back in the
And
90s. Yep.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I got to meet Greta at the I think it was the 2001 meeting up in Anchorage. She was with us up there. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful lady. Yeah.
Yeah. She,
It's nice, yeah, because and this is a concern, the commission, you would hope, these commissioners would have some health physics or nuclear engineering backgrounds, with all
yeah.
the important work they're doing, and there's some that do, but I don't know, but yeah,
And I
Greta's,
think she was the only one from a state regulatory program that's been on the commission. Is
yeah.
that right?
I think we had a couple from Pennsylvania here, but they were professors, nuke engineering
Mhm.
professors and such.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So again, back to into that scenario,
So
advice for newcomers. Yeah,
I think just to explore your options,
yeah,
because there's multiple ways that you can serve in health physics, and find the niche that most suits you. Um, there's a lot of areas in medicine, in environmental work,
yeah.
and regulatory,
Government.
especially.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
State,
being in a regulatory program, the one thing I really enjoyed was dealing with multiple issues.
yep,
I wasn't just stuck in a lab
yep.
dealing with one
The,
issue.
the diversity in the state
The
programs. That's yeah, yeah. That was a big appeal to me back in
yeah,
'99 when I came down. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
from
Very
new medical technologies to low-level
good.
waste to uranium to norm.
And
It's just,
it's sort of back to the future with the uranium now,
that's right. That's right.
Ukrainian, Russian situation and hopefully, free
And there
us
and
from,
all these areas are in need of of good trained
yep,
health physicists. So
yep,
yeah,
cleanups of DOE facilities, all the legacy. We had Oppenheimer for last year movie, and all that legacy is a lot of that legacy is still being cleaned up out in the
mhm.
DOE world. So there's big need. Anything you'd do differently, you think, in your career?
Well, based on the circumstances I was in at the time, and then uh, going along, I really don't think I would have done much
Yep.
differently,
Yeah.
career-wise.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny how we follow these different paths, for whatever the
Mhm.
circumstances are, and we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. It's nice to not have any regrets and
After being told no twice because I was female, I
uh,
felt, well, I've got to go this other way. But being flexible really helped, and I think
yeah.
um,
Yeah.
it
I
turned out really good.
good. Flex so before I came down here in '99 working for the DOE, I remember doing this case with the Department of Energy at one of these cleanup sites, and this report we were working on was just over the weekend, just over and over, edits and edits, and by the Monday we became the DOE lead had put cards on our desks, there were Gumby award cards, be flexible.
That's right.
Gumby cards. I think I still have that somewhere. So how would you like to be remembered for all of this? Yeah, yeah,
I think mainly,
distinguished career. Yeah,
as someone once told me, he said, "You're more of a help physicist," and
help.
that's
Nice.
that's how I'd like to be remembered. That I helped, and that
Yeah,
I've for been generous with
your time
time
and effort.
and
Oh my God.
yeah,
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 yeah.
and
Well,
so
that's a great. I love that. I've never heard that. That's
yeah,
that's excellent, and that we're gonna remember Ruth as a help
help physicist.
physicist. I think we can do something with that. Well, Ruth, let me just say we're coming up on our hour here, and I just want to thank you so much. This was wonderful. I'm so glad, I've had the opportunity to do this interview with you because we've worked so close over the years
Oh,
here.
yeah.
And
You
just
made it easy.
well, just love working with you, and still,
Yeah. I hope
so
we can continue
we're
to work together.
crossing
Yeah,
crossing paths and seeing each other at meetings and such. I'm sure I'll see you in March at NCRP in July
that's right.
in Florida with the HPS meeting. So again, Ruth, thanks so much. And I'm going to ask Mary Lou here. I think you're still on, Mary Lou, if you can stop this and